Meeting to order. In terms of taking notes, usually the the tradition is the new people start taking notes, and that's kind of like the it's not really hazing or anything. It's just it's a good way to welcome you to the advisory, because then you'll really pay attention. So Jean or Jean A or Jean H, either one of you want to volunteer? I can't hear.
Her mouth is full.
Right.
I'll take notes today.
Okay, you can take, yeah, and then you could just switch off.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're starting the meeting, and it is 7:04, and we're gonna do a roll call. And Helene Lieb here. Lee
Jenkins here.
Mary
McGoldrick here.
Rob
Hillman here.
Jean A.
Jean Estino here.
Yes. Jean H.
Jean Haley Dippold here.
Awesome. Meg
Wheeler here.
And that's it. Okay. I think we got everybody. And then Fran will be joining us soon. John should know about the meeting. I believe, where's Chris? Where'd Chris go? Oh, he popped out. Maybe he's getting John.
Helene, Meg filled us in. His mom had passed away, so he's dealing with that right now.
Right.
So I assume he's probably not going to show up, but I don't know for sure.
Yes. 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 That is definitely true. What he's dealing with now is his father, because his father is going to be moving to this area. So he has a lot on his plate. So anyway, let's start with the agenda. Chris, we could follow the agenda.
So well, you've already opened the meeting.
Yes.
And then I would, so what we tonight, and again, so let me set myself up here. Donnie, am I playing your, okay, hold on.
Yes, please.
All right, so as I'm pulling up Don's email, I will let him just give a quick overview of where we are.
Awesome. That's great.
Good evening, everybody. As usual, I'll run through the three appropriated budgets: general fund, water and sewer, and in that order. General fund, through October 31st, we continue to be in great shape. When you look at the budget to actual, we're at about 43.1% collected overall to date. The biggest driver of our revenues right now and every year are property taxes. The percentage collected to date is 44.5%, a little lag behind where we were the same time last year. I think it may just be due to timing. We took a little deeper look, and our second quarter taxes weren't really due till November 1st. So we actually got a big payment or number of payments November 1st. So looking at a collection rate based on what was committed, we actually collected 94.4% of our commitments compared to 94.3% last year. So just there's a little bit of a lag behind from a budget to actual standpoint, but overall commitment and collections, we're right in line. We're doing well. The other section that we normally look at, as you know, local receipts. When you look at local receipts as a percentage of budget, really until February, January is gonna look low comparatively. So when you look at the second page of the report, 23.6% of the budget collected. And really the biggest driver of that is motor vehicle excise. The big commitment that we get from the Department of R&V, Registry of Motor Vehicles, doesn't come in until January or February. So we really won't see collections on that budget line, a good bulk until then. You'll note 131,000. We do, as they send us commitments, we post and we bill. So the big bulk of them occur January, February, but as people buy new cars and things happen throughout the year, the R&V sends us the amount due, and we commit that and bill that to the residents. And then from a year-over-year basis, we're actually in good shape. We're down about 50,000 or 5.3%. But we kind of expected that with some of these items. So meals and room tax, for instance, we're down about 21,000, 30%. We knew that was going to be low. We also knew investment earnings were going to be low. And when you take a look at year over year, we're down 58,000, almost 78%. But based on a budget to actual standpoint, we're at 54.1%. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we're in great shape. Trying to just explain where some of these kind of fluctuations are and where the percentages and amount collected may vary to make sense to everybody. But from a revenue standpoint, does anybody have any questions on that?
Any questions?
No.
Okay.
And then just on the expenditure side, we're in great shape there as well. 35% spent to date. Big driver of that ends up being debt service, employee benefits, because our big lump sum payment for pension in January is about 2.6 million. So really looking at a department or a function by function line item, all the departments are trending in the right direction. They're all within their budget based on from a percentage of budget spent. We're not really seeing anything out of whack at this point. You will notice, like the last couple months, public safety is a little bit ahead of, if you look at 4 months out of the year, we'd be at, technically 33% if everything was even. They're a little bit high, and that really has to do with COVID and CARES related expenditures that I have in essentially one holding account within emergency management that will get reclassed at the end of the year to a number of different grants, either most likely CARES or FEMA. So there's about probably 220 to 250 of COVID related expenses within public safety and some other line items that will end up being moved out of the general fund into a grant, essentially freeing up those expenditures. So from a revenue and expenditure standpoint within the general fund, I'm really happy to see where we're at. I think we're in good shape going into November, and we're just going to continue monitoring and providing everybody an update on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
Hey, Dawn, just a quick question on that.
Sure, Jean.
Yep.
So with respect to the CARES Act grants, in part because I want to get the minutes right, so this is a good process for me. Is this assuming that the grants, we get reimbursement for the grants? Because if I recall correctly, you and I earlier talked about a reimbursement process, or is this money that is already granted and we just need to allocate it at the end of the year?
So this grant is technically on a reimbursement basis. However, based on guidance from our auditors and actually the Department of Revenue, myself and a handful of colleagues, we actually drew down the entire grant allotment up front. And so we're actually spending it down and reporting those expenditures based on the state's requirement. So we have the CARES money, which was about $750,000 for the townwide grant. One of the things that you and I did talk about, Gene, was FEMA, and that was a reimbursement base. So of all these COVID-related expenses, I've worked closely with Glenn Pratt, our emergency management director, and he has taken a number of the expenses that I have and have submitted them to MEMA and FEMA. The way I track this is I track it essentially as one pot, keeping in mind we will get reimbursed for some of that, but FEMA has not reimbursed a number of items that we thought they would. We have not received our notification yet, but I talk to a lot of my colleagues on a weekly basis, and stuff that they would have expected to be reimbursed 75% was not, and it was thrown out. So when I talk a lot about the CARES money, I kind of look at it as one bucket, and
So it's the mix of plus the potential reimbursements, but you're not sure yet based on FEMA's
Right.
rule, which maybe will change in January. Who knows? So,
Right, who knows? And as of now, I can only go based on what I know and the guidance. So right now, all of this money needs to be spent by December 30th.
okay.
And further, it's not just spent or ordered. The revised guidance now from the state is that we have to receive the good or service by December 30th. So, we're paying attention. I'm tracking this thing like a hawk. We're working with all the departments. If there is any potential money remaining, we will make sure that we address that and figure out what needs are in town that we need to address and purchase.
Very good.
Thank you.
Don, I have a question. With the FEMA grant reimbursement, is it either 75% or nothing, or is it a sliding scale? How do they do that?
So they will reimburse 75% of eligible expenditures, what they deem eligible. So
Okay, so it's not like they give you 50% for this thing and they're either going to do it or they're not.
exactly. So I think our first reimbursement was about $100,000. And so if all those expenses were eligible, we'd get 75,000.
Okay,
But that remaining 25,000 that wasn't reimbursed stays within the CARES grant. So we still, our budget isn't absorbing that. It will go to one of two of those grants.
okay. And then what impact does the fact that, I mean, any idea when the state is going to set its budget?
I do not. Chris may
I'll
have
give you an
more
update
to
on
say.
that, Mary. So the House actually just acted on a budget, I believe, last night. The good news is that they held they held local aid, including education aid, the same as last year. Some tweaks. I mean, some tweaks for districts that don't include ours. So we had budgeted less, so that was good news. They actually also, I'm sure all of you who are following the whole MBTA budget cut stuff, the House passed a rider in there saying, make no cuts before July 1 on the MBTA. So that was part of the House budget. The Senate is acting. They could be acting tonight, as far as I'm not sure. The governor had released that last month new version of it. They've pretty much adhered to that with some small exceptions. Nothing that's really affecting Cohasset so much. But as I said, the good news is that we'll end up with a little bit more local aid than we had planned in the budget, which is good.
Thank you.
Hey, Dawn, just one last follow-up question on the FEMA grant issue.
Sure.
The air filter and filtration systems we talked about last time, is that FEMA, a potential FEMA reimbursement, or CARES?
I think that's going to be all CARES.
Okay, because I know that there was a question as to whether when they were going to come in and the potential to cross the line into January.
Honestly, for whatever reason, FEMA came out with guidance around like September, and they're really being sticklers. So like even for PPE, they're only considering PPE for first responders. So, you know, back when we were planning the schools reopening, we purchased about $100,000 of masks and gowns and all of that, and none of that will be eligible for FEMA. So they're really, it's going to be interesting to see what they do actually reimburse. I'm keeping somewhat of an open mind, but I'm being very skeptical at the same time. So as we look towards the end of the year, I'm not looking to spend every dollar we have in this fund. The state has recommended, especially for communities like us that have drawn down the full allotment, is to keep some money kind of liquid in case these don't get reimbursed. And there'll be a whole reconciliation period as well once the grant year ends. And it seems like they have webinars every other week. So I'm trying to keep up with as much as I can with these changing guidance and rules.
Okay, thank you.
If I'll show you real quick, only because I just happened to pull it up. So this is it's probably a little hard to see, but you can go here yourself. This is the current cherry sheet numbers.
Okay.
I can make it larger, but I really can't.
Cohasset.
And so the original proposal was to raise this up, that's before the COVID crisis. So we're now down to 248. The good news is that's exactly the same as last year. So you can see there was supposed to be an increase. So all three branches are looking at the same numbers. And there's slight differences in charter school reimbursements and stuff. I wouldn't really focus. Same thing here as local aid. You can see it's exactly the same as it was last year, but it's less than had been projected. So in the original governor's budget, and this having been an election, year, it would have been. This was election year. This would have been a year they would have added more to it. Obviously, that wasn't possible. So.
Do you hear me okay, Vince?
What happened to Rob? He disappeared. Anyway, he'll come back.
Would it be possible to get a copy of the, we didn't get the financials this time, or at least I didn't get them.
I didn't get them either.
I apologize. I thought they were sent out when they were sent to the selectmen. We can get you those.
No, we didn't.
Yeah. I'll send them out. I'll send them out.
And Jean, that'll make taking the minutes easier, just to refer to those.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. And you want to make sure you turn off your speakers unless you're speaking. Because there's somebody has a lot of noise in the background. Thanks.
Does
Okay.
anybody have any other general fund questions or cares or anything else like that right now before we move on to water? No?
I think you can move on.
All right. Chris, when you have a second. So water is doing a great job as well. Budget to actual for the revenue side, we're at 28.3%. Again, this sounds like we're a little behind, but there are some reasons for that. Water use is actually in great shape. We've had better than expected use, so our revenues are actually higher. The reason it looks like it's lagging is due to two line items that we have. One is the town hydrant fee, which is the fee to the town for all the hydrants in town. That does not get billed until after the new year, and that's about 340 grand. And then about 120 of hydrant distribution charges. Those don't get billed until the third quarter as well. So we're actually doing really well on the revenue side. Taking a look at the year-over-year increase, we're up 21%, almost 250,000. And again, that's due to increase in water use. And then we've also done a good job. We're conservative budgeting new hookups, water hookups. So we've collected about 81% of our budget so far, about $25,000 increase over last year. So everything else is kind of consistent, basically usage charges and our system development line item, which is our water hookup fees, are trending better than last year. And then on the expenditure side, the total budget, 45.4%, is largely driven by transfers to our capital project or our capital project fund, indirect costs that we transfer in the beginning of the year, and also timing of debt service. So when you look at the general budget, which is what I like to focus on for that's basically your operations, we're only at 29.2%. The water department has been doing a great job on their budgeting and being conservative. So 29.2% is what I would expect at this point. And that's even with, we've had some water main breaks that they've been dealing with. So to still be at 29.2% spent through October is really good. And that, short and sweet, but that's pretty much the update on water. If there's any questions, I can entertain those now.
Lee, do you have a question?
Nope.
No. Okay, proceed.
All right, moving on to sewer. Sewer, we are at 30%, 30.6% collected. Again, that sounds like we're lagging behind, but similar to water, there's some timing issues with what we bill. our betterments for Little Harbor are not committed until our third quarter billing. So that's $680,000 worth of commitments essentially that have not been booked yet. And so we really won't start really seeing a bulk of that revenue come in until January, February. And because sewer is based on water usage and the billing, here we're also doing well compared to last year. We're $170,000 higher than we were last year, about 30%. And that biggest part, usage charges and our fees. And they've also had better than expected sewer connections. We budget about, well, budget I think is about 80, but we're 100% year over year increase. So we've collected 117,000 compared to 58,000 through October this year. And then on the expenditure side, they're actually doing well. They have the same timing issues with debt service, indirects, and transfers. So the overall budget is 50.5, but looking at the general expenses, their real operating costs, they're at 26%. And that to me is good. We've had not issues, but we've been a little tighter with our budget to actuals the last couple of years in sewer. So I'm happy to see that we're a little behind right now with our expenses. And it's just one of those funds we continue to monitor closely each month. And again, you know, enterprise funds are kind of short and sweet. So if there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, continue, Don.
And that's pretty much my budget update through October.
Thanks.
We've submitted, we've closed out fiscal 20. I've submitted the balance sheet and essentially the free cash retained earnings certification information into the state. Our DOR rep has already reviewed and has sent it up the chain. So I'm hoping to hear back in the next week or two, depending on how backed up they are. I believe they are backed up a little bit, but if I hear back in the next 2 weeks, I'd be happy. We actually ended the year really well. Based on preliminary numbers, we're looking at free cash of about 2.3 million. Water is about 1.3 million, and sewer is going to be just under 300,000. So all good news. We ended fiscal 20 great. And we'll just continue to monitor each fund and go forward. Rob?
Rob? We can't hear you.
You're actually showing that you're muted, so.
Yeah, Rob, you're muted still. We can't hear you.
That's not all. That's wrong. No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, that's it.
All right.
Chris, do you want us to go on with the COVID-19 in the schools, in the operation?
So we have, I think all of you met Susan at the last meeting. So there she is. She's obviously joining us from Prague. That's not London. Is that London? Okay. So she's traveling internationally tonight. So she's joining us from London. And I'll turn it over to her to talk about where the schools are. Do you need to show anything, Susan? You want me to give you the power to share? Okay.
Yes, please. If you let me share the screen.
All right. Let me give me just a second. Where are you? Okay. Gotcha.
And you all should have got the charts on this. It was sent to you about the schools and COVID and the CARES. Okay.
Yes, I sent that out. I asked Tracy to send it to everyone.
I think it was just yesterday or today.
Let's see where we go. Right over here. Can we see that?
Yes.
Okay, so it's very brief because I wasn't really sure what was expected. So I went through the 3 grants that we have. The first one is the CARES grant. It shows you how it was written. It was written for $25,000 in professional development, 20,000 instructional hardware, and then the remaining 8,000 for custodial supplies and materials. Professional development, I've talked to Dr. Scollins. She's about to spend that this week. We talked about it this morning. The instructional hardware, they're still purchasing equipment to allow the students to be able to access everything remotely. There's hardware that's been needed to kind of make the connection. And then the custodial supplies and materials were just basically some PPE, some, masks and sanitizing wipes and the like. So it gives you the total budget for that grant was $53,185. We spent 17. There's 36 available that will definitely be gone within the next few weeks. I don't know if you have questions on that one, or I can move right on to the next grant. The next grant is the remote learning technology grant. That was for $21,274. We purchased, I believe, 70 plus Chromebooks for the students that are trying to work remotely on the hybrids, because they're in school 2 days and they're remote the other 3. So those Chromebooks have been ordered, and there's a balance of about $1,300 on that one. So that will certainly be gone by the end of the year. The big one is the school reopening grant. A little more complex, lots of different categories and titles. So
no, that's okay. Yeah, probably.
okay, sorry, I thought you was talking to me. So you can go. That was $328,725. We've spent $229,000. We've encumbered about $9,800. There's about $89,000 left. Again, we brought in a portion of the Director of Technology and Digital Learning. A portion of her salary is going to be covered for this grant, because that's exactly what we needed. We needed someone in the district to do, is to help us with the digital learning. We hired a nurse, so a piece of her salary is coming out of that grant. We had to hire some assistants to help with the cafeterias and the playgrounds to keep the distancing at the elementary level. The older kids are pretty good about, following the rules and keeping the distances, but the younger ones have to be reminded. So we hired a couple extra assistants, and we also hired 4 part-time temporary custodians to help with the deep cleaning that goes on, because there's lots more cleaning that needs to be done in the high touch areas. And then we get into like the custodial supplies and materials, which again are the PPE, the gowns, the masks, the cleaning supplies, the sanitizing guns, nurses, medical supplies, materials, pretty much the same. We had to bring in that extra nurse, so we had to bring in extra supplies. We need to create a separate area for anyone that's, showing COVID type symptoms. They can't be in the regular nurse's office, so we had to create separate nurse health rooms to stream through those kids. Luckily, we haven't had any cases in the schools. There was some professional development actually to help the teachers figure out how to do the Zooming and what's the best way to do it. I mean, because it's all new to all of us. So we're all trying, all the teachers, each teacher's trying, something different to see what best works for them and their students. The building maintenance was the Balak engineering company that came in and did the HVAC air quality survey. So that's what the $12,000 was for. Textbooks and materials. Again, we had to purchase some software and some programs for online learning. Maintenance equipment was putting in petitions, walls, sneeze guards. I'm trying to think it's a wealth of things basically. And then the other public school tuition was $60,000. And that was for because the district didn't offer full remote learning. We just didn't have the space to do so. We partnered with TECA, which is a fully remote school. So there was a handful, more than a handful of children that are going to that program. And that's the tuition for that through December. And then because there's some salaries in here, we have to put 9% aside for the math teacher's retirement. So that kind of sums up what that grant's being spent on. Again, you know, I've worked closely with Glenn and Dawn to kind of balance what we're paying for, what the bigger grant's paying for, and what Glenn can actually get reimbursed for from FEMA or MEMA. So that's kind of where we are on those 3 grants. I don't know if there's questions, concerns, but I mean, like Dawn said, we're watching those numbers carefully because they have to be spent by December 30th. So we're keeping an eye on things.
Chris, Frank Collins is trying to get on. You may
Yeah,
want
I
to.
just sent him a new, I sent him a new invite.
Okay, good. Okay. Any questions for people? Jean? Rob?
Rob can go. He's been
Rob.
waiting.
We can't hear you, Rob. Rob? We can't hear you. Can't hear you. Okay, Jean, you want to go?
Sure, I just had a quick question. I saw professional development listed in the first grant and in the third grant. Is there a difference between and if I recall it was for Zooming assistance? Is that different in the first grant, a separate set of professional development money?
Yes, it's two separate things. So there's professional development for internal, just for our own staff, on how to do, you know, learning how to do the Zoom with the digital cameras and getting things set up. It's kind of neat when you actually go into the classrooms and look, because the teacher's sitting there with her computer and she's got this digital camera sitting there that reflects her up on the screen. So the kids at home can see her on the screen, but also see what she's doing. And then the kids in the class are actually watching as well. So it's pretty interesting, but I mean, it was a learning curve for everyone. We're still trying to, you know, make it 100%. You know, it's not perfect. It's a work in progress. I said, it's all new to everyone. And it's a little bit harder for the younger kids in the elementary levels to try to catch on to the Zooming and keep them engaged.
Oh, trust me, I know. I have a 4th grader. It's torture for all of us.
It's hard. It's very hard.
No, I was
Can I-
curious if the professional development
I
budget.
still can't be heard, can I?
Oh, yeah, no, you could be heard.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Never mind. Once you-
Okay. Rob, go.
I had a question earlier. You had a chart of various COVID-related expenses, and they all appeared to be mapped into the proceeds of grant money. I have 2 questions about those. First, how many of those, or actually maybe a preliminary question, is there a return to work agreement with the unions that represent the staff at the schools?
So tentatively, I mean, they're negotiating now. They're talking about coming back Wednesdays, alternating Wednesdays. So we're going to do it in a very slow, cautious manner. What will happen is
But my question is that, I mean, is there an existing, or I understand there's an interest in changing to including Wednesday in the school week, but is there an existing signed return to work order with the union that maps some of these expenses into its provisions? Or are they still bargaining over a return to work order in November?
I believe they're still bargaining.
Those COVID expenditures do any of them correlate to matters that are incorporated into the return to work order? For example, air purification and certain kinds of PPE are often parts of these orders? If you know, if you don't know that, don't
Well,
guess.
the air purification, we work with Dawn and Chris. And I believe the bigger grant is going to take care of that, because it was quite a large investment.
That's not my question, though. My question is, are these expenditures matters that are on the table? If you know, if you don't know, that's fine. But you may not be something that's in your purview. But are these matters that are being bargained with the union presently?
Presently, no. These are things that have already been put in place.
Okay,
These are things that have already happened.
Okay, never mind. I don't think I'm making myself clear.
yeah, Chris, I have a question. Chris, can you hear me? Chris, can you hear me? Okay, can you?
Yes, I can.
Did you hear the questions that Robert asked?
He's asking questions that are school related that I think are more of the purview of the schools. So
Yes, and
Ellen-
also,
Ellen has responded in the chat function. If you would
yes,
take a
oh, I'm
moment.
sorry. What's in the chat function?
yeah, also,
Yeah, there is something in the chat.
Yeah, I can read for you, Helen. So Ellen's sitting as
That's fine.
in the audience. She said there is no return to work order. The teachers are working as per the reentry plan. So that's what Ellen
there's
offered.
no return to work order.
Sure.
The teachers are working as,
What do you mean? I guess I don't understand a return to work order. There's either an agreement with the union on a return to work agreement or a reentry plan that's been bargained and signed. I think this is semantic. Well, it's not semantics, it's nomenclature. But I just am curious whether such a document exists. And because it's the advisory committee and our responsibility is really very narrow, my ultimate question was, are there matters, that are still out there that may be additional expenses in an amended return to work order or agreement or whatever people are calling it? Or is this it? Are there expenses relating to any agreements that aren't covered by these grants?
The
Or
response
is
from
the
Ellen,
question not clear?
the response from Ellen is the bargaining is ongoing and the teachers are working.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Thanks.
okay.
Quick question.
Lee,
Susan, question about the filtration equipment for each room. Wasn't that supposed to be taken out of this $328,000?
No, we worked with Dawn and Chris Senior, and the townwide grant, the $700,000 grant, I believe, is going to fund it.
Before last meeting we had, I thought it was on this particular grant. Am I right, Chris?
It was on the town received a seven. This was the funding, Lee, was actually coming out of the big grant the town received. That was where the air purifiers were coming out of. That's where they're planned to come out of still, is the grant. That is what you discussed at the last meeting.
Okay.
any more questions about this? Okay, we can go on.
Okay, so if you have no more questions for Susan, or if you have any minutes you need to adopt,
Yes, we do.
You would do those now.
Yes, we can do the minutes. Mary sent them to us so we could look at the minutes. And they're the minutes from the last meeting. And did you all get that? So we need,
Excuse me, Helene, I just had one quick question for Jean and Jean. I'm not sure if you guys were sworn in yet to advisory committee. Okay, so that's why you were
No,
listening.
we were
Yes,
not.
as long as that's correct. Okay, thank you.
yeah, they're now sworn in. They're,
We are now.
yes, they're official.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely. They're official. So we have the minutes and they're from October 22nd. Okay, and the people, just to make sure, at that meeting, they were not sworn in. Is that correct? Right.
Yes.
Oh, no, this is, as of the last meeting, they were not sworn in. They are now.
Right, exactly. So the people in attendance who were sworn in are me, Rob, Fran. Where's Fran?
Fran is still not in. I don't know. I did send him the invite twice. So,
Okay, so we could use him right now. But anyway, me, Rob, Lee, Mary, and Meg. So we have
And
5.
Helene, I wasn't there for the whole meeting, so I'm not sure that
all right.
I'm allowed to vote, or can I?
We'll accept it.
yeah, you're allowed to, Meg, as long as they're a fair representation and people represent that they're a fair representation.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's 5 of us, so we're allowed to vote. If we had any less than 5, we
Make a
couldn't.
motion, we accept the minutes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor? We'll take a voice vote. Lee,
All right,
Mary,
aye.
Helene, aye. Jean Estino?
I can't vote. I wasn't.
Oh, right,
official.
yes, of course. Sorry, I was just looking at you and I didn't mean, I meant to say Meg,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Helene, aye. So we got 5. That's probably Fran. Yep, that's Fran. Hi,
So-
Fran. We're in the middle of the meeting.
Let me explain what happens next, though. So maybe you
Yeah,
can-
he said he's on with the wrong person. He's on
So
with,
he's not, so he's at the executive session piece, right?
yeah,
We're about to join him in the executive session.
we're about to join in the executive session piece. So we'll see you soon because we're almost there, okay? No, that's it. Just hang on. We'll be there soon. Yeah, he missed the other. He didn't get that. So anyway, that's, the only other thing I wanted to say would be, so that passed, is the next meeting, okay? So next Thursday is obviously Thanksgiving. And then the week after that, I'm going to be gone. So I looked at the schedule. It looks like I'm thinking Thursday, December 17th, 7 p.m. Okay. Chris, what do we have to deal with on that? I know that there's a deadline for the articles for the warrant.
Yeah, so we would give you another budget update the next month. You can go to the grants where they stand. And at that point, the select board will set a tentative date for the annual town meeting. And we could talk about the schedule for that. At this point, they're leaning towards a late May or early June date, just to buy a little more time to allow state finances to shake out and to allow the weather to get better for a meeting, and hopefully a vaccine to spread through the community better, so we can pull people more safely.
So we're thinking about having a meeting in June.
The town meeting would either, at this point, tentatively be in late May or early June. The select board has not set a date yet.
Okay, so late May and early June. So I think December 17th would work then, right?
It's available. I mean, the select board is also looking on December 10th to have a community forum on open projects, and everyone will be invited to that. It'll be an update on the street corridor, and so,
Yeah,
so
I
that
probably won't be able to go to that, but so we're gonna put down, is there a question, Gina? You raised your hand.
Yeah, I can't be there on the 17th, just so you know. I'll be in South Carolina.
Okay, well, it's holiday time, so I don't expect us all to, there's gonna be some.
It's graduation time.
Exactly. And other people can you make it on that date? Okay. Yep.
No.
Okay, so no, the two of you. We'll try to get John there. So Jean, Rob, Meg can be there, Lee can be there, I can be there. So we at least have 5, and hopefully Fran. He may need some little help getting on the Zoom in the future. So anyway, that will be our next one, December 17th, so you could write it down.
So what's going to happen now? You're going to move to go into executive session, and it's on a different. You got a different invitation for this. Does everyone have? If you don't, I can resend it.
You want to resend it? That would be good. So we're going to end this meeting. And do we we have to end this meeting. We have to call to the end of the,
Yeah, what you gotta do is you gotta just move to executive session, and then meeting in executive session. And Rob, is that fair, Rob, or you want to give different directions?
no, that's it.
No, well, I think what you have to do is have a motion for executive session,
Yes,
state the reason, is it reason 3 for collective bargaining? I can never remember.
yes,
And I always do reason 2 for litigations. That's my reason. But no, just recite that it's reason 3, and that that not doing it outside of executive session would have a deleterious effect on potential collective bargaining issues. And then we do a roll call vote, and then we then make sure you state that we're not coming back into open session. Is
okay,
that right, Chris? Those
yes.
are the elements.
Okay, do you want to state that and then somebody will second it?
Happily. So I move that the
Excuse me,
meeting,
Jean, you want to record this as the secretary. Thank you. Go on, sorry. Rob,
move that the advisory committee go into executive session for purpose 3, discussions of collective bargaining. And in the view of the chair, that discussion in open meeting would be deleterious to positions taken in collective bargaining, and that the committee does not intend to reconvene the meeting in open session after executive session.
right. And that was done at 7:49. Okay, and a roll call vote we need?
We need to second it.
We need a second. Yep.
I'll second Jean Estino.
Yes, and let's do a roll call vote. Mary McGoldrick,
Mary McGoldrick, aye.
Lean Lee, bye. Jean,
Jean Estino, aye.
Jean Healy Default,
Jean Healy Dippled.
yes. And Meg Wheeler,
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Rob?
Rob Hillman, aye.
Okay, Helene Lee, bye. So everybody, so now we're gonna leave, and you sent us,
Yeah, I just resent you all an email with the link when I go to the platform. If anyone has any trouble, just call or shoot me an email or something, and I'll reach you.
Chris,